Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there and creating some wonderful paintings. This week on the channel I am going to paint a beautiful autumn scene. I have had a couple of requests for this. I put a poll up on my Patreon channel, so a selection of pictures to choose from. A lot of people chose another painting, picture to paint, but I also got a lot of requests for this particular scene, and I'm going to show you. It's a beautiful autumn scene, lovely autumn colours. So I thought that would make a nice little change. What do you think? Little person perhaps walking along on the roadway. Beautiful autumn colours. So I thought it might make a nice change. Some nice warm colours, yellows, browns, siennas, and working with complementary colours. So browns and yellows with kind of purpley, pinky hues. Lovely complementary shades in this. So I'm going to just try and simplify this for you, if you don't mind. I keep it nice and simple. I won't go into far too much detail with all of this. Just a nice, easy, relaxing autumn tutorial. And I might even get the palette knife out as well for some thick foliage. So join me if you're interested in learning about this type of a painting. This is how I would approach it. Everybody has their own different little techniques that they like to do, or their little, they've a certain way they like to start a painting and finish a painting. This is how I approach it. It's just a nice simple way, and nice and easy, and just one or two brushes, a couple of nice colours I have in my palette. I'll show you here now in just a moment, alright? So let's go and have a bit of fun with this. I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be right back. Okay my friends, here we go. There's a reference photograph. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely and soft and relaxing and inviting. Lovely colours. It looks easy, and we'll make it easy, but I want to kind of really add some depth. So lovely mist in that background. Lovely mist all around in the centre of that painting and coming up. So lovely soft misty trees. Let's try it. Come on, let's have a bit of fun. I'll tell you what colours I'm using today. I have titanium white, phaylo blue, naples yellow, burnt umber, cadmium yellow, lamp black, magenta, burnt sienna, and cadmium red. Lovely warm palette. And let's start with, I think we should start with just one or two lines. Let's pick our horizon line. That's what I would call the horizon line. So where the land disappears. So it's the top of the footpath. I'm going to go around here, thereabouts. I'm going to then just come down in a little curve like that, and then I'm going to go here like that, something like that. Yes. And after that, it's straight in with a brush. I'm taking my large brush, dampen your brush. Now what I'm going to do as well, I do this in some videos as well, I'm going to just oil the surface with regular linseed oil, okay? Linseed oil on its own. I'm going to just take a little bit of that. I'll take a little bit of tissue paper or a bit of cloth, anything you have, and I'm simply going to just take some linseed oil and I'm going to pop that on the top half of this canvas here. What that allows us to do is to create nice soft colours. It's similar to liquid clear, but I just don't like liquid clear. I think it makes the canvas too oily, much too oily. Linseed oil, a tiny bit of this, it's all you need, and that will stay nice and wet on the surface. It just helps us blend colours together. That's all, really. You can use just normal thinners if you like, but that may dry in slightly. And I can see now there's a nice little sheen just on the top half of that. It's lovely. Let's go right into some colour. I dampened my brush and dried it, so it's only, it's barely wet at all. I'm going to start with a light colour in the middle. I want to get that in. I'm going to start with a light mauve shade. Some white, touch of phaylo blue, and a touch of magenta. This will probably be mostly blue. This is very important, this section here, right now, because This will give us the depth in the painting, this colour. So I want to go probably more on the blue side of mauve, but you can see it's still warm, isn't it? It's like a pinkish blue. I'm going to just start with that colour. In the centre, okay, like that. It's a very soft colour. Then I'm going to start darkening this very slightly. I'm going to take more blue, more magenta, and I'm now going to start going into more of a reddy shade. So you can see the colour I have there now. It's like a warm, it's a nice mauve, isn't it? I'm then going to just start adding a touch of cadmium red, tiny touch. So I want to now start warming from a cool colour out into a warm colour. Let's take a look. No, that's not bad. Perhaps a touch more cadmium red. The cadmium red just warms this, it makes it nice and soft. And I'm going to soften that slightly inwards. We don't need to go far with this. Just a little, just like that. Okay. Then I'm going to start warming it a bit more with more cadmium red and then a touch of sienna, burnt sienna. So now we're going into these lovely autumny shades. You see what I mean? And the trick is to have plenty of warmth in this mix. Now, in the last mix I did, you can see there's a lot more red than blue. So that means the sienna with the red will mix lovely into all of this. And you won't get any muddiness or anything like that. So it'll just be a nice, warm, soft gradient going out. So let's try that again now. A little bit more red, a little bit more sienna. And you could even start putting in a touch of Naples yellow, just for the simple fact of thickening the colour up and making it opaque. Because if you don't, your canvas will show through. It'll be very translucent on its own. So the burnt sienna with the red is very translucent just on its own. But by adding a touch of Naples yellow, you're thickening the colour up. You're making it nice and chalky. And I go right up with this colour, all the way up, and then just soften them in where they meet. Look, just soften them very gently with the tip of the brush. So I'm picking up colours and I'm transferring them from one to another, you see. Like that. Now the next thing I'm going to do as well, as I'm doing this, I'm going to start creating some foliage. Look, just with that little touch of sienna with red and Naples yellow, I'm going to start bringing some foliage into the painting just with the corner of my brush. I'm just using the corner. Dab, 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 dab. You've all probably seen this. You've probably seen many painters out there just doing it like this. Dab, 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 dab. It's the most effective way of creating the impression of foliage in a scene. It's just nice and simple. It helps sort of soften colours from one to another as well, while creating texture at the same time. And it's a nice simple effect, and it works, doesn't it? Look, it's just a nice simple effect. So we have our nice soft shades. I'm going to start taking some Naples yellow now just for up here to create a nice light. A light source, say just from above. Let's imagine there's a nice light source coming through the trees up here. Nice and bright. You can even take a little bit of white as well. Pop a little white up there. You can just use the dabbing technique if you want to soften this in. Just dab, 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 dab to create more texture in your paint. And just soften it down into that mauve shade. Very, very light. I'm going to now take some Naples yellow with white. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of that shade. I just want to imagine there's some light coming down, hitting some of the tops of the trees and the foliage here and there. Okay, just like that. Now we have a lot done already, don't we? The next thing I'm going to do is take my soft blender brush, a makeup brush, that's all it is, a simple makeup brush. I'm just going to kind of soften very gently these colours together, just to make it nice and misty. Okay, dab, 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 make it nice and soft. And I also want to get a hint of some tree trunks off in the distance. So I'm going to take a very small pointy brush, wet that and dry it, get it nice and pointy. I'm going to go into this mauvey shade with a touch of black. So it's a dull kind of a mauvey grey sort of a shade. I just want to put a hint of one or two little suggestions of tree trunks off in the distance. They can be very far away now, all right? They don't have to be in detail or anything like that. Just a suggestion of one or two. Because we will cover a lot of these with foliage and all that kind of stuff as we go. So just hit and miss, you see what I mean? Just kind of hit and miss some parts. It's just a very, very faint suggestion. That's all I want. And you can even soften that in with some of your blender brush as well. Just dab, 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 soften it back in. You see? Just like that. Nice and simple. Now we're getting down into the darker stuff. So, with the same brush, I'm not going to clean it. I don't feel I need to clean it. I'm going to start putting in some darker shades. Burnt sienna, burnt umber, a little magenta. I'm going for a rich dark colour for all of this. So let's just start here, let's say. Now, I generally put a little bit on like that. Then I stop and I look. Is it enough? Maybe a touch of black in there. That's generally how I kind of tend to work. Put a little bit on, just see if it's dark enough or light enough. And then if you're happy, continue. I'm just going to fill this with some nice dark colour. And as it goes off into the distance, I'm just going to kind of taper it away, nice and gently. Maybe take a touch of Naples yellow in there as well. Allow that to kind of soften away off into the distance. And then I'm just going to kind of soften this back in. I'm going to come out with some darker shades just here and there, just one or two. The idea is to create this kind of soft technique going up. All right. Then I'm going to get some black with burnt sienna. And I'm going to come down here and just really darken this roadside hedge sort of a thing down here. Just go really dark down in here. Maybe a touch of cadmium red as well. Just to add a little bit of warmth in there. And I take the tip of my brush, then I go into some burnt sienna with cadmium red and a touch of cadmium yellow. And I'm going to just add little touches of highlight here and there. Naples yellow, burnt sienna. And I'm noticing now as I'm doing this, the painting is getting very thick with paint. And I'm being very careful. I don't want to make this very messy. So I'm just being careful. I'm going to soften this back into the background as it goes off. Just to create a nice soft technique. Nice soft impression up there. Alright, just like that, you see. We're going to soften things around. You can have a bit of fun with your soft blender brush in this kind of a painting as well. So I'm happy enough now with that. I'm going to go back to my small pointy brush and I am just going to add a few little twigs and branches and all that kind of stuff in there. So just one or two sort of popping out here and there. Just like that, okay? One or two. You don't have to go crazy with all of this. Once I have the branches in, I'm just going to go over those with a few lights. I'm taking Naples yellow and cadmium yellow and a touch of white perhaps. I'm just going to add a little bit of a light foliage just here and there in between those, just to, you know, break them up, catch a little bit of light, that kind of thing. It does work, you know. Let's create another little light here and a little light there. And I think we're pretty much finished with that side. I can just soften some of these back in to create that nice soft effect. Let's move down to the road, and I'm going to take another sized brush. Nice small flat brush. I'm going to put in the road first in a nice mauvey shade. So I'll take some of the mauve I had, look, some pink and some blue. Let's mix another bit of that now. Tiny bit of blue, white and magenta. Tiny touch of thinners. And I'm aiming for a bluey shade of mauve. You just keep going until you're happy with the shade you have. I might even take a touch of cadmium red just to tone it down very slightly. And that's just still a little bit blue. A little bit more cadmium red. Just a nice soft mauve, really. You could just go with a nice soft mauve. I'll take a touch of magenta with white, just for the top up here. Turn that, bring it down. The important thing with this is to follow the shape of the road, the direction of the road. So in coming down, you can see my brush strokes are coming down and following the shape of the road. That's very important, because if you go like this, like that, you know, it's just not going to work. You need to follow the shape of the road like this, and that moves your eye into the painting. You're following the road. It encourages your eye to follow the direction of your brush strokes. That's what it does really, in essence. Okay, that's the road. Now you can see there's hints of brown in there too, isn't there? So I'm going to take a touch of burnt umber with some magenta. There's a lovely kind of a browny pink going on in there too, isn't there? Let's just put a browny pink in along the side of the road here. We have a nice little bit of it coming down. There's even a touch of black I can see as well. A touch of black. It's like a grey, pinky, browny shade, isn't it? There's a bit of that kind of a colour going through it. I'm just putting my lines in like this for now, and I'll show you then what we're going to do with this. So we have our basic kind of lines done, don't we? What I do then is I take a fan brush, and I use my fan brush then to soften those together. You could just use the dabbing technique. Dab, 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 dab. You could drag them out as well, soften it all together, look, just to get the impression. So you see what I mean? Just using lots of different types of techniques with your brush, just to create a certain kind of a feeling in your painting. So you can see how that's kind of softened together now very slightly, yes? I'm then going to take some white with my fan brush. I'm going to go into some white, and I'm going to take a touch of magenta and a touch of Naples yellow. So nice bright colour. And you see the light. I'm just going to simply dab my fan brush to create that light. Maybe a touch of blue in there, might be nice. And I'm just very randomly dabbing my fan brush around, just softening things together. I just keep looking at the photograph and I'm just pulling the lights in where I see them. So it's slowly now, very slowly, it's coming together, very, very slowly. A little bit of blue and white just in here. Keep it nice and bright. Get that nice brightness on the road. Then I'm going to stick with my fan brush and I'm going to just reinforce some of those darks, only to create texture. I'm going to come over here first and put that little bank. You see that bank in over here? Let's put that in. I'm going to go with some cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, a little white. We could even try a little cadmium red in there as well if you want. You know, we can just have a bit of fun with lots of colour. And I'm going to come over here and just pop that in just to create that verge on the side of the road there. The side of this kind of, is it a road or footpath? It's like a road, isn't it? It's more of a road than anything else, isn't it? A country lane, I would say. So that's in then just to sit those down. Then let's try some burnt sienna, just to add a little bit of darkness here and there. You know what I mean? It's just creating texture. That's all I want to do. Create some texture. How about burnt umber with a little burnt sienna? And just very gently creating this nice little piece just at the side. And you can soften this then out into the road as well. Make it nice and kind of rough. A nice rough textured appearance. There's also some in the centre of the road here and there, isn't there? So I'm just picking up little hints of sienna, just to make it look very busy, like there's lots of foliage and all that kind of thing on the ground. That's all it is really. It's just make it look like there's a lot of stuff going on. Now, cadmium yellow, a little bit of that, just to add a bit of colour, because we have lots of different colours going on up in those trees, don't we? And it's getting there slowly, you see what I mean? So all these little layers that we're adding, it's all helping. I'm going to come down and do this side here. I just want to get this in. I'll go back to my small flat brush, and it's pretty much the same as the other side really, isn't it? Let's take some sienna, naples yellow, touch of cadmium red. I'm just going to first put that in. Like this. I'll come across to about here, I would say. Now, one very important thing about all of this is perspective, okay? People don't think of perspective that much when they're painting, but it's very important. Perspective gives you that feeling of something going off into the distance. So what I mean by that is, you can see the way everything is moving sort of into a point. See what I mean? It's all kind of moving into a point. So pick a point. Let's go with here, okay? So everything from there comes out at that angle over to this side, and everything from that point comes down at an angle to this side, you see? So everything is kind of coming in to this point, isn't it? So that's the kind of, that's the angle we're sort of going for. You see what I mean? That creates perspective. So everything is meeting in this area up here, and it's coming out at an angle, and the further away this way, it gets higher and higher. So if I brought my roadway over here, you could see it would be up here. So it's very important to get that perspective right. Now I'm just going along here, and I'm going to just soften these in just along here. This is going to be my slightly shadier side up here, and this will be my lighter area down here. So I just fill that in, and then go back to my fan brush, and we'll darken the top section. Let's take some black and some cadmium red, a bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow perhaps even. And I'm just going to go up and darken this section, which is in shade. It's in shadow, as you can see. There's a lovely shadow being cast up here with that dark, and I'm just going to dab my fan brush to create that texture. Okay, and I'm going to do the same with some cadmium red, burnt umber down here. So I'm just creating my shadows first. And I'm going to just stop there. I'm then going to put one or two just in here. You see these shadows being cast out? Let's just put one or two in here. And we could put another small one here, we'd say, just a little. How about some black and burnt umber? Pop a little bit of that in just to strengthen the shadow as they come in towards the trees. They're generally darker as they come in, and they lighten as they go out slightly. And this is very important as well, my friends. A lot of people will be tempted to bring this colour all the way across their footpath. And, you know, that's an easy mistake to make. But you have to remember, the footpath is a mauve shade. So if we want to create if we want to continue this shadow out onto the footpath, the roadway, we have to put a darker colour of mauve in there instead of a brown. So if I mix a dark mauve, let's say phaylo blue, magenta and a touch of black, just a slightly darker shade, okay, and maybe a touch of white as well. What I'm then going to do is transfer that shadow with a darker mauve out into the road, okay, just very gently like that. Then I'll stop where the shadow stops, and you see these ones, I'm going to continue that with the dark mauve as well. And you could soften them back into that brown ever so slightly as well. And the same down here. So now you can see it comes together a bit better, doesn't it? So rather than bringing the brown out, you could just bring the mauve wherever your shadow on the brown stops. Continue that with the mauve, the darker mauve, and you can soften it back in here and there as well, look, just to make it nice and soft. And leave it disappear across into the road. You could even merge it all together here as well, look. And that just kind of works a bit better, doesn't it? It fits a bit better. Now I'll clean my brush and I'll get some nice bright in here. I'm going to go with cadmium yellow, naples yellow, and a little touch of burnt sienna. And I'm going to go in here with some nice bright shades. Look, dab, dab, dab with the fan brush. A little bit there, just a touch. And we have a nice brightness there now, don't we? And you can then, if you like, you can do the very same on the roadway as we did here. So we could take a very bright blue, for instance, and we could put a very bright whitey blue just here, where that light is cutting across the road. We could put a very bright blue just across here and there. Okay. So you can see now that just, it makes a bit more sense, doesn't it? When you do it like that. Rather than bringing this yellow right across the road like this, You just put a nice bright colour, a nice white. And that's pretty much that side pretty much finished, I would say. Yeah, we're going quite well, aren't we? All we have to do is fill in this area and we have some trees. And now how fun was that? That was a really lovely section to paint, wasn't it? It was just nice and easy and relaxed, and you know, there was no pressure or anything like that. Now, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, some burnt sienna, and let me take a look. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to fill this area with that colour. So this is what I generally do when I'm painting an area like this. I just cover the area with my brush very loosely like this, okay? Just be careful towards the top here. Just cover with the area, or with my brush, cover that area completely, and once you've that done, you can then use your fan brush. So you're putting in the undercoat with the brush, and then you're going onto your fan brush to create all this lovely texture. Isn't that right? So what I want to do is start with the dark shades. I can see burnt umber with cadmium red. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to, this is important, you see the way these darks come in here and they stop. I want to continue these darks up like that, look, up into the ditch. So bring them across and just follow them up into the ditch like that. And just dab, 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 dab. So now we're continuing that shadow up into the ditch like that, you see. We could try some burnt sienna, with a little Naples yellow. And for this one, we come up like that. So it's just a simple case of following your lights and your darks. That's all it is. Just follow the shapes of them. Now I just need some more burnt sienna on my palette. There we go. Just a little. It goes a long way, doesn't it? The burnt sienna. It really does. Let's take burnt sienna and burnt umber, and again just create some different types of shades. Up here, I'm going to do the very same with that burnt sienna and burnt umber. I'm going to soften those darks up into the ditch. Very roughly with my brush. Look, I'm just being very random now with my brush here. Very random. Just to create texture, nothing else. Then I go to some burnt umber and so on, and I'm just going to kind of create maybe a bit of black as well. This nice kind of dark area just falling down here. You see what I mean? Just a bit of texture, that's all it is. Now so far, that's looking quite nice, isn't it? I'm going to just clean my fan brush very quickly and go into some nice bright shades. Let's get some cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, and a little white. And I just want to really give this section a pop here with some very nice bright foliage. Just like that, you see? And I mean, we could use our palette knives now and everything if we like. We can have a bit of fun with all of this. I'm going to go very dark down at the back down here. Very dark. This is just black I'm using now for this, okay? Just to create a nice depth down in the corner. I think that really works. I think it needs some burnt umber up around here. It needs to be slightly darker up around there, doesn't it? So let's just put a bit of burnt umber up there and soften it in. And that's fine. That will do absolutely fine. Let's go to our palette knives. And I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with naples yellow. And I'm very simply going to just look, I just want to add a little splash of highlight here and there. Just around where the lights are really catching. I think that's probably enough. I don't think we need to go absolutely crazy with this. You know, just a little bit here and there. I don't want to overdo this. There. I think that's fine. It's just a little to catch the eye. That's all. So look what we have done now in that short time. Isn't that just amazing? And what I could do as well, another little idea for you, take some burnt umber or black or whatever, and just pop a few little impressions of just, you're not painting detail as such, you're just adding a little bit of interest, you see what I mean? Just little dabs of colour here and there. Just little dots with the tip of your brush. Just move a little bit of colour around, just in between the lights and the darks here and there. It just adds a bit more interest. It gives you the illusion of detail without thinking that you're painting each individual leaf, so to speak. It just, you know, it's a nice way of just adding a little bit of extra to your painting. So we are done with that. We are just up onto this side, and that's all we have to do. Isn't that amazing? We've did all of this done so quickly. Let's go to our big brushes. And again, I'm going to do the very same technique and just fill in all of this with a colour. So I'm looking at a colour. I'm going to go for a dull kind of brown. Okay, I'm going to try some burnt umber with some naples yellow and a little touch of sienna. It's a kind of a soft browny colour, I'm thinking. Perhaps that will do. I'm going to fill this in. Again, just as a base colour, that's all. So it kind of comes out like that, doesn't it? It goes into a rich yellowy shade up there then. Okay, and maybe then a touch of black and sienna. Just for the darker shade in and around there. I notice I'm doing my brush strokes like this because that will help give the impression of the tree trunks in the background as well. And while I have that colour, let me just take a touch of naples yellow and a touch of cadmium red. I'm going to suggest these lovely kind of, you see these distant foliages popping into the painting. I'm going to just suggest those with this colour as I have it. Take a touch of cadmium yellow as well. Let's go into the yellows, create some yellow as well up there. And a touch of white even, just down here where it's nice and soft, where it just disappears into the mist. You see, just nice and gently. And what I'm going to do then is take my soft blender brush, and again I'm going to soften all of these into the misty background up there. Just make them nice and soft, so they just kind of disappear slightly. Does that make sense? See, you can rub, you can dab, you can do whatever you like. It's up to yourself completely. And that's nice and soft. The next thing I think I should do now is paint some tree trunks. What do you say? Do you think we should try some tree trunks? Go for a nice flat brush. I'll take some burnt umber, touch of black, and a touch of magenta. I'm keeping these nice and warm, and I'm simply going to just go like this, okay? And let's just follow it up, leave it disappear. That's one pretty much already. And we have another one that comes up like that. The lovely thing about this is it picks up the colour underneath. And it just kind of softens everything together naturally. Okay? More brown, more black, a touch of magenta. And let's just keep going. Let's just keep adding these lovely thick tree trunks all the way up. You can add branches slightly as we go up. I'm going to start adding more black and brown into it as it comes back. So you can see they're in the shade. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of shadow on one side and soften it in, especially towards the bottom of the tree trunks. Just going to soften them in with some real dark colour. That's coming on quite nice. We have a very thick black trunk coming up here, don't we? A rich colour, burnt umber and some cadmium red. I'm going to go with that first. I'm going to just pick a point. Now let's just say around here, and I'm going to come right up with a nice thick tree trunk like that. Then I'll take some black, pop a little bit of black in there as well. And we have a nice big black one. That's part of that one, isn't it? It comes up like that, very dark. It really takes up a big chunk of the canvas over on this side, doesn't it? So let's go nice and thick with all of this now. And we'll take it out of the painting. And that's the very front one then. That'll be the big thick one in the front. Now the next thing, I'm just going to pop over to my small detail brush. I'm going to take some black with some burnt sienna. Lots of thinners. Make that nice and wet. Maybe even a touch of cadmium red as well. And I just want to come up here and bring this one right out and down into the painting. You can see that's a nice strong colour, isn't it? It just has a big impact in the painting. And I come up then and bring a few branches off of this down into the painting here. I find twisting the brush makes a big difference. Do you know when you're going along and twist your brush? It helps get those lovely little points, I think. It just makes so much of a difference. And I'm coming down into the painting then with all these over here. So they're coming down from the top. And it's just a kind of a hit and miss type of effect. That's what I generally do. And this is looking quite nice. I'm going to go to a palette knife now. I want to create some really nice texture on this tree. It just looks, at the moment, it's flat, isn't it? It's just a very flat colour. So I'm going to get some burnt sienna on my palette. And I'm going to get some burnt umber. And we are going to create some nice texture on this tree with a palette knife. We're really going to make this one stand out from the crowd. So let's try it and have a go. I'll start with burnt umber. And I'm going to simply dab, 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 dab with my knife. Just kind of on the edge of my knife. I'm just going to dab that colour onto the tree trunk. I just want to create some nice texture on the tree trunk. That's all it is. And this is a great way for creating texture on your trees. If you want to create very strong trees with lots of impact, you should always just grab your palette knife. It's a fantastic way. Now, some burnt sienna as well. It's a lovely way of creating very textured trees. And you can kind of begin to see how that's really kind of jumping out of the canvas, isn't it? It's really showing a strong presence in the painting. I'll do the same with a little bit of black. I'm going to put some black on this now as well, just in the back side where it's at its darkest, just down there in the back. Up along the back, lots of black up there. Soften it in. You see, we're kind of softening colours as we go. And then, if you notice, we have lovely, lovely hints of light catching some parts of this, don't we? I'm going to take some sienna and cadmium yellow, touch of white, because we do have some beautiful bright colours just catching the outside edge of this tree, just here and there. Look, so I'm just going to dab again with my knife along the edge, creating little bursts of sunlight. One or two just around here. And I go up another little bit, just with another one or two. And then some white and some cadmium yellow for the last very bright ones. Just little touches, look, tiny touches here and there. So the next thing I want to do is just soften these into the background slightly. So I'm just going to, you see these trees off in the distance, I just want to soften those into the background. Now it doesn't matter if I pick up a little bit of paint from anywhere else, I just want to create a nice soft texture in the background up there. That's all. Right, we are just going to kind of sit this down into that kind of bushy area up there. I'm going to take some cadmium red and burnt sienna and just create a little bit of a darkness, just to sit that down there, as if it's just merging down into the trees and the bushes down underneath. Alright, just like that. Just be nice and just have a bit of fun with this and take it nice and easy. And really, there's kind of just one bit left. It's just all of this nice bright foliage. That's probably what we have left, really, I'll be honest. So I'm going to start with this area up here. I'm going to create a soft yellow for that. Similar to what we did earlier, but the Naples yellow, burnt sienna, a little bit of cadmium yellow. And with that loaded on the knife, let's go up and just flick some of that here and there in those branches. It's really just to, you know, add a little bit of colour up there. We're just kind of transitioning from this colour over into that yellow. You see? Just a little bit of transition, that's all. Then I'm going to go into my knife and I'm just going to go to town with this kind of nice rich yellowy colour. And you know, after that it's just a case of filling your palette knife up with plenty of colour. I'm just going to get some cadmium yellow for my palette. I just need a bit of cadmium yellow. A lot of the emphasis seems to be on that bright yellow, doesn't it, in the foliage. So I want to take my time and get that right. So I'll just grab my palette knife, take some cadmium yellow, and I'm going to take a touch of burnt sienna. I'm going to start, I think, with just that colour. It's a nice warm, autumny kind of a yellow. And I'm just going to simply start dab, 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 dab. Fill that in. And this is where the palette knife really comes into its own. You can do just so much with the palette knife. It's such a versatile tool for painting, it really is. I would encourage you to pick up your palette knives regularly because it's just such a brilliant tool to use. Bit more cadmium yellow, and I'm going to kind of come down now into the sunlight with just a cadmium yellow on the knife and just dab, 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 dab. Look. Try not to dab too much in one spot, if you know what I mean. I want to kind of just create clumps of colour here and there. If you keep dabbing too much, it becomes a blob, doesn't it? It sort of turns into a big blob of colour. So I want to have a nice separation between the different sections of foliage. So we'll just keep going with Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, you know, even mixes of both, I would say. And just kind of catch the lights on some of those. But more importantly, you know, just try to have a bit of fun with all of this. This needs to be nice and fun, doesn't it? That's what it's all about. And then just fill up in behind, in between those branches. Let's get some sienna, cadmium yellow. And let's just kind of fill all this area up with that lovely colour, just to create a mass of that colour. We can cut across in front of those with the branch again in a moment. Just want to get that colour in there. You see what I mean? So I hope I've made this tutorial easy for you to follow. I wasn't trying to be too complicated with the techniques and all of that. So I do hope I've helped you a little bit understand about painting something like this. It may look complicated when you're looking at a photograph initially, because you're seeing so many different colours and shades and mixing, you know, the soft parts and the strong parts. It can be very daunting for a lot of people. But I hope by showing you this kind of technique that I've used, I hope I've helped make it just that little bit easier to understand. I really do. Because my goal here at the end of the day is just to show you how to create lovely paintings in a nice, easy way, you know, without having to overthink the painting too much. So I hope I have achieved that for you. Nice bright whitey yellow now, just down around here. Just dab, dab, dab with your palette knife. It's just that easy, it really is. And my friends, I would say we are almost there, really. You know, there's not a whole lot more you could or you need to do to this. Of course, you can keep going if you like. You keep adding colour here and there. I'm just going to darken now just the back end of the tree trunk here, just to cut in front of those yellow leaves, just to kind of bring it forward again. That's all. You see what I mean? And then maybe some burnt sienna with Naples yellow along the front of this one here, just to bring that forward as well. And that's just sort of pushed everything back then, hasn't it? I think there's just one more little thing I might do, and that's to add a person. It's a great way of just bringing some life into your painting, I think. So I'll take some burnt sienna and simply paint a carrot. Can you paint a carrot? You can, of course you can. Let's paint a carrot. So there's the shape of a carrot, yes? Wide on top, narrow at the bottom. And let's just put it in a silhouette. Let's bring the arms out slightly. Like that. That's a nice little suggestion of a carrot kind of a shape, isn't it? Put a bit of black towards the bottom. And then a little dot for the head. A nice simple suggestion of someone walking. And then let's just create, again, a little shadow with that dark mauve shade coming off of that. We have the shadows going this way, don't we? Or they could be coming, they're kind of coming from the top, aren't they? So we could just put a shadow like that, look, and leave it soften away. The only purpose for a shadow is just to sit the person down. And that's all we have to do, my friends. We're pretty much finished. You can keep going if you like. It's completely up to yourself. Completely up to yourself how far you want to go with this type of a painting. I think I'll just leave this alone. I'm pretty happy with all of this. I'm very happy with the outcome. I'm just going to take a touch of bright colour and just lighten here and there just a little bit. Just catch a little bit more lightness. And that's it. We are done, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed learning about this. Let me just fix the focus on this now for you. There you go. Nice and simple. You could add more foliage up there if you like. It's completely up to yourself. But I think in general, I think it's turned out pretty nice, don't you? A nice simple autumn scene with a nice source of light. And that's what I wanted to create in the beginning. So I think I've achieved that. I think I have. And there we are. So my friends, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed watching me paint. I've really enjoyed painting it. Nice little frame on that, a nice dark brown frame, perhaps to set off the lights. And yes, thank you so much. A nice simple little autumn scene. I hope I've kept it simple for you. Let me know what you think. Do subscribe if you haven't done so. You're missing lots of nice little techniques to help you on your way in your journey with painting. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week with something else, something different. God bless and happy painting.